My name is Shannon. I'm standing at my father's 60th birthday party, surrounded by 43 guests. He's holding a champagne glass, and as he raises it, he says, "She's the one who didn't finish college," just like he's stating a well-known fact. I'm in a tailored black blazer, my hands steady, my smile practiced. Little does he know, the business card in my pocket is about to shatter his illusions. In less than a minute, his champagne glass will lie in pieces on the marble floor. But this moment didn't start here. It all began 5 years ago. I was 22, a junior in college, having started a year late after working to save for tuition. My family, especially my father, Henry, a former corporate executive, was all about status and traditional success. He measured the world by titles and positions. One October night, I was sitting cross-legged on my dorm bed in Seattle, looking at a spreadsheet I'd been working on for 3 weeks. I'd noticed a huge gap in the market. Small cafes and bistros with handwritten menus had no affordable software to manage their bookings, while big platforms ignored them. I'd already started coding a prototype at night, and 3 local cafe owners had said they'd pay for it if it existed. I called my father to share my idea. He listened in silence, which made me think he was actually considering it. Then he said, "So, you're quitting?" It wasn't a question. It was a condemnation. He compared me to my brother, Ethan, who was also 22 and following the path my father had laid out for him. When I asked him to look at the numbers, he hung up. That click on the phone wasn't just the end of a call. It was the end of the hope that he might understand me. 3 weeks later, I called my grandmother, Mabel, on her 85th birthday. She was sharp as a tack and always remembered every family detail. But she said, "Your father told me you're working as a barista. Are you eating enough?" I was heartbroken. When I called my father to confront him, he said, "I told her the truth. You dropped out and now you work in a cafe." He laughed at my dream of starting a company, making me feel small. He also started spreading false stories about me to my friends. My friend Lily from freshman year showed me a voicemail where he said I was going through a rough time and needed space. 2 of my closest friends stopped talking to me within a month. After dropping out, I lived in a tiny studio apartment in the city. I coded for 16 hours a day and worked at a trendy coffee shop 5 nights a week. I ate instant noodles so often that my fingers swelled. But my product, named Brewbook, a booking and management platform for independent cafes, was starting to gain traction. My first 3 customers were cafes I'd worked at, and they trusted me. Each paid $39 a month, and seeing that recurring revenue on my dashboard made me realize this was real. On Thanksgiving, my father called to tell me that my cousin, Ryan, had been promoted to a high-level position. He tried to motivate me to go back to school. I hung up on him for the first time. That call pushed me deeper into my work. I went home for Christmas. My mother, Sophia, was soft, spoken, and always tried to avoid conflict. She hugged me tightly, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. When I walked into the living room, my father just raised his glass slightly and said, "Well, look who made it." A cousin asked what I was up to, and my father answered before I could, "She's figuring things out." His tone dripped with pity. After dinner, he told me not to embarrass him with my little business, and that we'd talk when I had something real. In the second year, Brewbook had 50 cafes on the platform. I hired my first 2 employees, a junior developer named Jake and a customer support rep named Ava. But back home, my father was spreading more false stories. He told the family I was unstable and not doing well. My cousin, Sarah, stopped inviting me to her annual summer barbecue, and my aunt sent me a prayer chain email. In the third year, Brewbook was growing fast, and I was negotiating a major contract with a regional chain of cafes called Java Junction. But then, I received an email saying they'd decided to go with another vendor because a family member had raised concerns about my stability. I knew it was my father. When I called him, he said he was looking out for me, and if my business couldn't survive one phone call, it wasn't real. Losing that contract almost broke Brewbook. I had to let Ava go, sell my car, and sleep on the couch in our shared office. That's when I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Lewis. She asked me why I didn't tell my family the truth. I was afraid my father would find a way to minimize it. She told me I needed to believe in myself. That night, I decided to keep my business and personal life private from my family and to build Brewbook so well that the truth would speak for itself. Then, I got an email from a former CTO of a large coffee tech company, Clara. She was interested in investing in Brewbook. After a tough meeting where she asked me hard questions, she decided to invest $150,000 for 12% of the company. She also became my mentor. In the fourth year, Brewbook had 500 cafes on the platform, 20 employees, and $2 million in annual revenue. Forbes featured Brewbook in an article, but I asked them not to include my photo. Around Thanksgiving, my uncle, Tom, called to tell me that my father had spent 20 minutes at the dinner table raving about a brilliant tech company that was transforming the coffee industry. He had no idea it was my company. My brother, Ethan, got engaged in February. I found out through social media. He called later, saying my father had told him I was too busy to come to the engagement party. At the party, my father told everyone I was still working as a barista and had dropped out due to emotional problems. By the fifth year, Brewbook closed a Series A round with a $30 million valuation. I owned 58%, and we had 60 employees and 1,500 cafe clients across 25 states. I hired a personal driver, Max. My uncle called to tell me that my father's 60th birthday was coming up, and my mother had asked him to invite me. I thought long and hard about it and decided to go, but on my own terms. I took out a business card that read, Shannon, CEO of Brewbook. 2 weeks before the party, I got a call from an investment firm. They said my father had contacted them, claiming I had a history of instability and that I dropped out of college due to psychological issues. I was furious, but remained professional. I told them to talk to Clara, my lead investor. On the day of the party, Max drove me to my parents' house. As I walked in, my mother's eyes welled up with tears, and she hugged me tightly. My father, surrounded by his golfing friends, just said, "Well, look who showed up." Throughout the party, he introduced me as someone who is finding herself and made comments that belittled me. At 7:30, my father tapped his champagne glass to give a speech. He thanked everyone, praised my brother, and then turned to me. He said, "And Shannon, my daughter, the one who didn't finish college. But we love her anyway, don't we?" I waited for the applause to fade. Then I walked up to him, said, "Happy birthday, Dad," and placed the business card in his hand. His eyes widened as he read it. His fingers loosened, and the champagne glass fell to the floor, shattering into pieces. The room went silent. My brother, Ethan, took the card and read it aloud. The room was filled with murmurs of surprise. My father was in shock. He asked, "Is this real? Why didn't you tell me?" I told him I had, but he'd called it a pipe dream. Behind me, I heard my mother sobbing. Max walked in and said, "MS. Shannon, the car is ready." I turned to my father and said, "I wanted you to be proud of me, but you chose to be ashamed of someone you never bothered to know." I hugged my mother, told her I loved her, and left. After the party, I had my attorney draft a cease and desist letter against my father for making false statements about me to my business associates. I also sent an email to my family, saying I wouldn't accept being lied about anymore. My uncle told me that my father locked himself in his study after the party. He spent hours researching Brewbook and finally understood the truth. He called my brother, and Ethan told him he'd never known the real me because of him. My mother also told my father that he never listened to me or to her. My father started sending me short emails every month, saying things like, "Saw Brewbook in the news. Hope you're well." I haven't replied yet, but I'm waiting to see if he truly changes. I've learned that I don't need his approval. I just need to believe in myself. And I'm finally ready to live my life on my own terms.